the autumn air in Washington carries more than the usual chill of October this year. On Tuesday, October 7, 2025, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney will walk through the doors of the White House for what has been carefully described as a working visit. But what everyone in Ottawa, and indeed across Canada, understands to be something far more consequential. This is not just another diplomatic meeting, not merely another handshake between neighbors who share the world's longest undefended border. This is a moment that could define the trajectory of Canadian-American relations for years to come, and perhaps reshape Carney's own political future. The meeting marks Carney's second visit to meet with President Donald Trump since becoming Prime Minister. But the circumstances surrounding this encounter feel markedly different from their first face-to-face discussion. The stakes have risen dramatically, the economic pressures have intensified, and the political climate, both north and south of the border, has grown more volatile. Trade disputes that once seemed manageable have metastasized into broader economic challenges. Security concerns have deepened, and hanging over everything like an unwelcome specter at the negotiating table is Trump's recurring provocative rhetoric about Canada becoming America's 51st state. The agenda for this Tuesday meeting is formally straightforward: trade relations, security cooperation, and the upcoming review of the United States Mexico-Canada Agreement, commonly known as USMCA. This trilateral trade deal, which replaced the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, was supposed to bring stability and predictability to North American commerce. Instead, it has become a source of ongoing tension, particularly as the Trump administration has shown little hesitation in using tariffs, trade barriers, and economic pressure as negotiating tools, or perhaps more accurately, as weapons of economic diplomacy. Sources indicate that potential movement is expected on steel and aluminum tariffs, suggesting that at least some progress might emerge from this high-stakes encounter. These tariffs have hit Canadian industries hard, disrupting supply chains, costing jobs, and creating uncertainty in sectors that employ tens of thousands of workers. Steel mills in Hamilton, aluminum smelters in Quebec, furniture manufacturers across the country, all have felt the sting of these trade barriers. For Carney's government, securing relief on these fronts would not just be an economic victory, it would be a political lifeline. But the meeting's significance extends far beyond the technical details of tariff schedules and trade quotas. This is about national sovereignty, economic security, and Canada's place in an increasingly unpredictable world. Trump recently revived his suggestion that Canada should join the United States as the 51st state, telling military officials that Canada could get access to his proposed Golden Dome missile defense system for free if it simply became part of America. To most Canadians, this rhetoric is not amusing. It is not a harmless joke between friends. It is seen as deeply offensive, a fundamental disrespect for Canadian independence and identity. Canadian members of Parliament have stated that Trump's latest remarks about Canada becoming the 51st state are offensive and not funny anymore, reflecting a growing frustration that has permeated Canadian political circles. After Carney and Trump met at the White House in early May, Carney had said that Trump agreed to stop referring to Canada as the 51st state. Yet, here we are, months later, with Trump once again deploying this same rhetoric, raising questions about whether any agreements or understandings reached in private meetings have any staying power when Trump faces a microphone and an audience. The timing of Trump's renewed 51st state comments is particularly problematic. They came just days before this crucial meeting, creating an atmosphere of tension and distrust that makes productive negotiations more difficult. What makes these recent comments particularly noteworthy is their timing and context, especially as Trump's rhetoric had notably quieted in recent months. The resurgence of this inflammatory language suggests either a calculated negotiating tactic designed to put Canada on the defensive, or a genuine indifference to how such statements damage the bilateral relationship. The domestic political pressure on Carney is immense and growing by the day. Ontario Premier Doug Ford publicly stated that Prime Minister Carney better fight like hell during his trip to Washington, encapsulating the sentiment of many Canadians who feel their government must stand firm against American economic pressure and political bullying. Ford's comments, delivered at a rally in front of an automotive plant in Brampton, reflect the anxiety rippling through Canada's manufacturing heartland, where tariffs and trade uncertainty threaten livelihoods and communities. The Liberal government's position in public opinion polls has been slipping steadily, creating a dangerous political environment for Carney. Many Canadians view this meeting not just as another diplomatic engagement, but as a defining test of leadership. Can Carney stand up to Trump? Can he secure meaningful concessions? Can he protect Canadian interests while maintaining the crucial economic relationship with a neighbor that accounts for the vast majority of Canada's exports? These are not abstract questions for political scientists to debate. They are immediate, urgent concerns for workers, businesses, and families across the country. The broader context makes Carney's challenge even more daunting. The USMCA review, which will examine how the trade agreement is functioning and whether modifications are needed, looms on the horizon. This review was built into the agreement. A scheduled check-in designed to ensure the deal continues, serving all three nations' interests. But in the current political climate, with Trump wielding tariffs like a cudgel and showing little regard for the norms of diplomatic discourse, the review process could easily become another venue for conflict rather than cooperation. As, in the modern sense, is not merely about goods crossing borders. It represents interconnected supply chains, where components manufactured in one country become part of products assembled in another, then sold in a third. The automotive industry exemplifies this integration, with parts crossing the Canadian-American border multiple times during the manufacturing process. Disrupting these supply chains with tariffs and trade barriers does not just hurt Canadian businesses. It damages American companies and consumers as well. Yet, economic logic has often taken a back seat to political posturing in recent years. Security cooperation between Canada and the United States runs deep, forged through decades of shared defense commitments, intelligence sharing, and joint military operations. NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, has protected both nations' airspace since the Cold War. Canadian and American forces have fought together in conflicts from World War I through Afghanistan. This history of cooperation makes Trump's suggestion of annexation particularly jarring, as if these partnerships built on mutual respect between sovereign nations count for nothing. Carney's background as a former governor of both the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England gives him credibility in economic discussions. He understands financial markets, monetary policy, and the intricate mechanics of international trade. But this meeting is not primarily about economic expertise. It is about political will, negotiating skill, and the ability to manage a relationship with an American president who has repeatedly shown he values unpredictability and is willing to append long-standing diplomatic conventions if he believes it serves his interests. As Tuesday approaches, the weight of expectation rests heavily on Carney's shoulders. He must project strength without provoking unnecessary conflict. He must defend Canadian interests while recognizing the reality of asymmetric power. Where the United States economy is roughly 10 times larger than Canada's, he must secure tangible results, relief on tariffs, progress on trade issues, commitments on security cooperation, while navigating the minefield of Trump's mercurial temperament and his tendency to view all relationships through a transactional lens. The meeting's outcome will reverberate far beyond the Oval Office walls. It will shape how Canadians view their government's ability to protect national interests. It will influence business confidence and investment decisions. It will set the tone for the USMCA review and future trade negotiations, and it will either strengthen Carney's political position or further erode support for a government already struggling in the polls. This is not just another diplomatic meeting. This is a moment of reckoning. A test of whether Canada can maintain its sovereignty and economic well-being in an era where it's most important. Partner seems increasingly unpredictable, and at times, openly hostile. The eyes of a nation will be watching as Mark Carney steps into the White House next week, carrying with him not just briefing books and policy proposals, but the hopes and concerns of millions of Canadians, who wonder what the future holds for their country's most vital relationship. As this critical chapter in Canadian-American relations unfolds, we will be here to bring you updates, analysis, and the full story of what happens when these two leaders sit down at the negotiating table. The outcome of this meeting will affect millions of lives on both sides of the border, from factory workers in Ontario to farmers in the prairies, from tech workers in British Columbia to fishermen in the Maritimes. This is the kind of story that matters, the kind of in-depth coverage that helps you understand not just what is happening, but why it matters and what it means for your future. If you found this analysis valuable, if you appreciate thoughtful, comprehensive coverage of the stories that shape our world, then please take a moment to subscribe to West is Best. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you never miss an update, and share this video with friends, family, and colleagues who care about understanding the complex dynamics of international relations and political leadership. Your support helps us continue bringing you the detailed, nuanced reporting that cuts through the headlines and gives you the full picture. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video as this story continues to develop.